COVID brain might be real. Hey everyone, welcome to episode 59 of the Hilo Stitch podcast. I am your host Kristen, and I am here to talk to you about what else? Knitting. I will also be talking about all things knitting and yarn related, and maybe not so knitting and yarn related. So if you don't know me already, my name is Kristen Janik. I am a semi-retired knitting pattern designer, a knitting instructor, and all-around knitting enthusiast. I'm podcasting to you from my home in the Maryland suburbs of Washington, D.C., where I live with my husband and 2 little boys, 1 cat, 1 dog, and 1 fish. And when I am not knitting, which happens occasionally, you can find me vegetable gardening, watching Orioles baseball, reading, doing yoga, but it's mostly about the knitting, so let's go ahead and start talking about it. Okay, on and off the needles. It is hot and summery and not perhaps ideal knitting weather, but I am still doing some knitting. Have I finished anything? No, but I have made a little bit of progress on a couple of projects, so I will show you those. The big one is that I have made some pretty decent progress on my Gelato tank top. So this is one of the projects on my Make 9 for the year, and I have finished the top of the front and put that on scrap yarn, and am now working on the top of the back, which is also getting pretty close to done. And soon I will be joining them, and then it should be relatively smooth sailing. I have to just finish up kind of the bottom point of this triangle here. And you can see the back, there's not a whole lot going on here. It's just got a couple of columns of like a twisted stitch set off by some purl stitches just to give it a little interest and structure. And then I'll be joining it in the round, which means much faster, hopefully easygoing knitting in the round. And then I will add the straps, and that would be done. I am still having major issues with my bobbles. So they are all on the wrong side, and I need to figure out a way to get them to the right side. I know I saw, I'll have to go back and watch, I think it was on the Wool Needles Hands podcast from Taylor of Fiber for the People yarn. I know, I'm almost positive one of her episodes had a thing about how to do the bobbles, and it's something like wrapping a strand of yarn from the side around the base. So maybe I have to go back and look at that and see if I can find it. But yeah, otherwise that it doesn't look great. You can see all my bobbles are back here where they don't belong. So I just have, I think, one more repeat of the increase pattern for this, and then I can join them in the round. I love this yarn. This is the Magpie Fibers Equinox, so it's a linen silk blend. It's a sport weight, and I actually signed up recently for a test knit that uses sort of a summery fiber in a sport weight, and I would have loved to have used this, but it is on the more expensive side, so I can't quite swing that, but I wish I could, because I'm really enjoying working with this yarn. It's soft. It's, a lot of linens and cottons will soften up when you wash them, but that doesn't make them any easier to knit with. But this is, I guess, that silk, it's nice and soft. It's very drapey. Really just a beautiful summer yarn, and hopefully maybe by the next episode I'll be working on the body of this. It would be nice to get it finished to actually wear this summer. So that is what I've made the most progress on in terms of personal knitting. I also cast on a hat. So this is for the Midnight Soul hat. That is a pattern by the Petite Knitter, and this is on my Make 9 for the year. This is not necessarily the time of year to be working on a color work hat. There you go. That's very cute. But this particular indie designer was recently accused of pattern theft by another bigger indie designer. So it's a great time to support her. And I decided to go ahead and buy a pattern for the hat, and I bought one more pattern for her foxtails sweater, which is adorable. And maybe I'll knit it someday, maybe I won't. You can always support designers buying patterns, even if you're not sure you'll ever actually use them. But
let's get ready to rumble!
Accusing other designers of stealing is just really shitty. First of all, the designer in question basically designs colorwork yoke sweaters and nothing but colorwork yoke sweaters. Pretty much all of them are a fingering weight, and basically she just swaps out one stitch pattern for another. So if that's all that you design, eventually you're going to come across other people's patterns that you think look similar. Two, things just happen. Like, most of the time it's just that, we're all kind of seeing the same things, being inspired by the same things. We're all following each other on Instagram. We are, watching the same yarn companies produce their yarns. We're all kind of in this relatively small world of fiber arts together. And you get inspired by the same stuff, and you end up coming up with things that look similar. That's just the nature of the game. And third, the patterns in question didn't look really anything like this pattern that she supposedly had stolen, other than, again, they were both colorwork sweaters with a circular yoke. And what was even worse is that she didn't approach the Petite Knitter and say, hey, I'm wondering what the deal is. These kind of look similar to me. And, she just flat out was like, you stole this. So anyway, that's why I decided to go ahead and cast on the hat now, even though maybe this is not the greatest time in the world for a colorwork hat. And you can see I have not made much progress either. I've just started with the brim. It is designed to fold over, so it does have to be very long. But this is, especially at this point, since it's just the brim, great for easy, mindless knitting. I do want to show you guys the colors I'm using for this. So I am using Trillium Natura Ulysse, which I used, is it early this year or late last year that I finished my my mashup of Melody Hoffman's two patterns, the tulip pullover and the something else that I mashed up. I used the Ulysse, and I had a ball of it left over, and then I also had picked up these 3 balls to go together. So here is my color palette for the whole hat. I don't know, I hope they were all going to work together the red sort of stands out a little bit, the reddish brown kind of stands out a little bit from the other three, which definitely go together better, but I think it's all gonna work out and be a nice color palette for that project. And if not, I suppose I can always add another color in at some point, but hopefully that is gonna work out all together. So I don't have the labels, so this is a dark blue that I want to say is called Tempet. This one still has the label, so this one is Cypress. This one is, again, this is the one left over from my sweater, and it's something like wine, Merlot, maybe, Merlot. And then this one is the Sage, I believe. This, no, Eucalyptus. I have another project in Sage on a different base. This is what I originally I really wanted this color. See if you guys can see sort of the subtle color variation in here. So I found it at Fiberspace in Alexandria, but they only had one ball. And I was like, what am I gonna do with one? But then I found these colors to go with it, and I thought, well, that'll work for some kind of color work, something. So we'll see how it all works out. But that's just a project, getting a few stitches here or there when I need a little bit of mindless knitting. I think that is most of the progress I have made on my personal projects. I also happen to have this in here, so I will show you that I did finish one of a non-Euclidean sock. See if we can get a little close up to the color here. So this is a pattern by Sarah Jordan, PA Knitwit, and you can see it is just kind of a basic stockinette except for the heel, which is this cool, let's see if I can find a way to show, this cool kind of triangle here. Does that look like anything? There. And I love this because I can just knit anytime, anywhere, do the heel, which, you know, doesn't take long, and then knit till it's done. So it's just a little bit more interesting than a plain vanilla sock. And I have started the second sock, but I haven't made it very far. I'm not going to remember what this colorway is called. It's from Old Rusted Chair Yarn, and it is Hipster Scum, I want to say, is what it's called. I think I do this every time. I ordered two colors from her. One was Hipster Scum, the other one was Panic in Detroit. I believe this is the Hipster Scum. So you can see just really pretty blues, browns, love that. So this has been my bedtime knitting. For a while, my son was doing the reading, which was nice. And since I was just sitting there, I could knit. Now, lately, he's been wanting me to do the reading, so we're reading Percy Jackson series. We're just on the second book. So I took it out of his room because I hadn't been doing the reading. And it's in my favorite little Rhinebeck project bag. Are you going to Rhinebeck this year? Leave a comment and let me know. I originally was thinking we would go, but one, we are doing 2 weeks at the beach this year instead of one, and two, my sister and I are throwing my dad a big 75th birthday party, so I think maybe the finances are not going to be there, but I would love to hear if you're going as I attempt to make a decision. But I'll always have my little project bag. So I think that is it for personal knitting. The other things that I have been working on are designs, and one of them I cannot show you, and the other one I will show you in just a little bit in Adelante. All right, Adelante, where I talk about upcoming design things that I am working on. I have been doing most of my knitting on 2 of those right now. One I cannot show you because it is for publication with a third party, but the other one I can. So I have finally gotten around to my project to rework my Soundside pullover, which I will add a photo of here, as a cardigan. This, you might remember, I think I said in the last episode, is some yarn that I bought to use together for a pullover. That's my own hair. A pullover design I had in mind, but after swatching with it, it was too heavy. I really am looking for a very light drapey fabric, and this just wasn't giving me that. But it still works together for this Soundside cardigan. I think I am not going to call it that. I think it has the same basic stitch pattern, but I'm going to be, I think, making enough changes that it's going to have a new name and be a distinct pattern. So let's see if I can get you close up here. The yarn I'm using, it's Jill Draper Make Stuff, her Lee base, which is a supposedly lace weight. It's a single ply Rambouillet alpaca blend. It's more thick and thin, and I would say probably closer to a fingering weight than a lace weight, if I had to choose between the two. And then I'm holding that double with Fiber Space Cumulus in her silk Surrey alpaca blend, so it's like a floof yarn, but the Surrey alpaca instead of the mohair. So I started off just a plain, holding just one, the Lee, and then combined them both once I started into the body pattern. So I had started with some short rows to drop the back hem just about 1.5 inches, and this part here is where the pockets are going. So I really want this to be like a quick throw on, wear throughout the year sweater. Like you can grab it as a jacket, or you know, in the summer when the grocery store is going to be chilly, and you can wear it around the house, and it has pockets so you can, you know, put all your stuff in there, and but it's still, you know, a light layer, so you're not gonna overheat, because the yarns are light, but they're also very warm because you have the alpaca in both of the yarns. So that is what I have been working on mostly. So the main stitch pattern here is basically the same as what was on the original Soundside pullover, but because of this alpaca, which is a little bit thicker than like a mohair silk, I'm using a twisted stitch in here instead of just a plain stockinette stitch, just to give it a little bit more definition and help it to stand out a little bit more. So I just recently got the pockets, or the pocket stitches, onto a holder. So at this point what I'm doing is knitting the body up to where I want the kind of the top of the pocket to be. Then I will go back and knit the pocket up to there and join the 2 stitches, sets of stitches together on either side. So it's going to be like kind of a curved pocket. And then from there, it's going to be relatively straightforward. It's a drop shoulder. It's supposed to, I'm designing it intentionally to have like an open front, but that the 2 button band edges, although I won't put an actual button band, but whatever I decide to put on there, are close enough that if you wanted to put like a shawl pin or something to hold it closed, you could do that. And I am planning to do sort of I don't know if they're called like balloon sleeves, but like a nice puffy sleeve that comes together and pulls closer in the cuff, which is what is on my
One eternity later.
what is that? I think COVID brain might be real. What is that called? Snowy Forest pullover, which has sort of those big drapey sleeves, and then they pull together here. And there is a little bit of a repeat of this stitch pattern on the sleeves as well. I wish this were moving a little faster. It's not. It's on a US 5, which isn't terrible. I am trying to make it a little bit oversized, so, and of course it is a cardigan, so it's flat knitting back and forth. So it is not moving perhaps as swiftly as I would like, but it is on the way. Other than that, since that yarn didn't work out for what the pullover idea I had, I did order more yarn. Like I need more yarn. I did order more yarn, a lace weight, I think a true lace weight base that I ordered from Sonder Yarn Company, which is up in Canada, so I don't know when it's gonna get here. But I was hemming and hawing about what I wanted, and I really liked one of their bases. I think it's a 2-ply BFL lace weight. And then they sent out like a subscriber coupon code, so I took that as a side and went ahead and ordered that. I am still for the floofy yarn to go with it. I still want to do something that's a little bit more economical. So this Cumulus from Fiber Spates is pretty reasonably priced for the Surrey Alpaca Silk Blend. I may go ahead and do that again, or I may keep looking around, but I definitely want to do something that's a little, not necessarily an indie dyer, and maybe is a little bit more accessible, and both in terms of like availability and the price point. So that is gonna happen eventually. And then I am still waiting on some yarn from Hudson and West. We are going to be working together again on an indie design that I would like to get published in the fall, in October, around Rhinebeck time, for a big cable-y cardigan. Hopefully that will arrive soon. They did say that they, you know, like with everything else, there's shipping delays and problems getting stock in and things like that. So supply chain issues. So hopefully that will be heading my way soon. And that is everything I think that is in the pipeline that I can show you in this episode. Okay, for news and events, my Sweater Siren class is currently in full swing, and that means that it is almost time for my annual sweater along. So every year, once the class concludes, I run a sweater along, which is open to everybody, not just students from the class. And all you have to do to participate is pick one of my sweater patterns and knit along with us. So the sweater along will be starting on August 1st. It will run through, it's about 10 weeks, so mid-October is what I want to say. I don't remember the date off the top of my head, but think mid-October. And I hope you will join us. The whole idea is to get a sweater finished in time for the fall weather, which of course only really works if you're here in the Northern Hemisphere. Not so much, you know, if you're expecting spring to come, but for those of us in the Northern Hemisphere, it is a pre-fall knit along, and you know, you can probably still use sweaters in the spring if you're in the Southern Hemisphere. So again, you just pick any one of my sweater patterns. You can purchase my patterns on Ravelry as well as on PayHip if Ravelry is not accessible to you. If you've already purchased a pattern, you can use that. If you have a magazine or a collection from Knit Picks with one of my patterns, you can do one of those. Any sweater pattern from Maybe a Better One in Knits, and you just jump right in. I try to set it up so that I am able to give you some guidance. So whether you were in the sweater siren class or not, I provide a tentative schedule to help you keep on track throughout the knit along so that you will actually have your sweater finished by the end. I also like to provide a list of yarns that I have personally worked with that I think work well for sweaters at all different price points, so that can help you as well. And in the past, of course, we have used Ravelry to chat. We will not be doing that this time. If there is interest in having a chat, I will create a platform on Discord specifically for the sweater along so that people who are participating can talk to each other, if there's interest, and otherwise we will be on Instagram and just sharing photos and hopefully getting some sweaters ready for fall. So again, that is going to kick off on August 1st. I will include a link in the information box down below with some more details about the sweater along so you can participate if you like. This episode is going to drop on July 1st. So that gives you a whole month to go ahead and get your yarn, pick out your pattern. If you have questions, you can always reach me on social media, on Instagram. You can send me an email if you have questions about a pattern before you decide to commit to it. I'm available for that. And it is usually a fun time. I, in the past, have sometimes had a new pattern ready for the sweater along. I just showed you where my latest pattern stands, so that is not going to be ready for the sweater along. And what I will probably be working on during the sweater along is that sweater with the Hudson and West yarn that hopefully will have arrived by August 1st. And what will almost certainly be the case, but I'm going to wait until I actually get that yarn to make sure the timeline works out, is that everybody who participates in the sweater along will get, if you finish your sweater during the sweater along, will get a free copy of that pattern, that upcoming pattern that I'm planning to drop in October. That is, again, the tentative plan, assuming that my yarn gets here soon so I can actually get started on that. There will also be a big grand prize for one winner. Who knows what it'll be? We've still got some time to figure that out. It'll be, something knitting and yarn related, no doubt. But just giving you guys a full month heads up, the sweater along is coming. I would love to see you there participating along with the Sweater Siren students and knitting a sweater, getting ready for the fall. It's not a super fun time of year to be knitting necessarily, but it's a great time for sewing, and I have been doing lots of sewing. I have finished recently, I'm trying to remember what I have finished since the last episode of the podcast. I've definitely finished two things, and I will go ahead and put a photo in here of the first one. This is the Ogden Camisole. So I sewed this for myself in a linen viscose, which is rayon, noil, whatever that is, I don't know. And then I also made a second one for my sister, and I can actually show you that one. So you might recognize this fabric from the dress that I did a little bit earlier this year. I had some left over, and it's interesting. Like, I don't like to knit the same thing twice, but I don't really have a problem using the same yarn. In contrast, I don't so far have a problem sewing the same thing twice, but I don't necessarily want to use the same fabric. Maybe because it's a very distinct fabric, but I thought I don't really want another garment in this fabric for myself, so I can make one for my sister. So again, this is the Ogden Camisole. This is a pattern from True Bias. It is a pretty straightforward camisole. It is has a lining on the on the top, just over the bust, and then the bottom is just a single layer. It has just nice thin straps that are kind of sandwiched in here, so they're not going to disconnect easily. Nice drapey shape, a V-neck on both the front and the back. So what I did for this is I made the same size for both of us, which was the 8. My sister is a little bit bigger than I am, so I did smaller seam allowances for hers, which should give her an extra inch or so in the body. So I'm obviously not a sewing expert. Presumably, if I had already had the pattern printed, and because of the way that the shaping works, if I had cut out the size larger and then tried to cut it down smaller for me, some of the like kind of corners of these pieces were outside the line, so it would not have worked. Yes, I could have traced the pattern off. I really hate doing that. It is not my favorite thing about sewing. So instead I decided I would try just using the given seam allowances, I guess, for 5/8 of an inch. So I went down to about 1/4 of an inch seam allowance instead. And that's just enough to make a little bit extra space in here, and hopefully it will work for her. Hers is also this fabric is a little looser and drapier, so I think that will work nicely as well, just to give it a little extra room. So this is a really nice basic camisole pattern that I have already cut another, some leftover fabric from another project. I've already cut that out for another one, and I can see myself making a bunch of these to use. I can wear it by itself in the summer and then make a really nice layer for underneath cardigans, in the fall and winter. So really straightforward, relatively simple, and a really nice wardrobe basic. So that is what I have been working on most recently. And what I'm working on right now is a dress for myself. Most of what I sew is for myself. The pattern is called Trillium, and the reason I wanted to make one is that it's a very similar shape to a dress that I have, that I think I bought at Old Navy like 15 years ago, that the zipper is just busted, and it has seen better days. It's also a little small for me now. So it had such a similar shape, I thought it would be nice to kind of recreate it. So this is what I have so far. I've got pockets. I'm basically never making anything that doesn't have pockets. Has a relatively, straightforward bodice. The big thing is in the back, it has this shearing. This is the first time I've done that. I might not even be pronouncing it right. And my problem is that after doing that, it seems like the back has shrunk too much in order to sew it to the sides. So I pinned it on one side because I was trying to get an idea of how this works. So it's pinned over here, and you can see how much smaller this is than this over here. And of course it does stretch, that's the point of the shearing, but it just seems, let's see if I can show you, a little tight. Like even if I stretch it all the way, I've still got some fabric over here. That doesn't seem right. But the shearing, I've always said shearing, I don't know, was a real pain in the butt. I don't want to do it again. I screwed it up. So I did 3 rows of it wrong. And so basically the idea is that you use a regular thread on top and an elastic thread in the bobbin. So the first 3 rows, the elastic thread wasn't tensioning right, and I had to pick them all out, and it was a huge pain. You also have to wind the bobbin by hand. Went back, got the fabric to do what it's supposed to do. It's definitely doing it, but it just seems to be like a little bit of overkill, and I don't know what the answer is. I don't know if I should just try to sew the sides together and see what happens. I really don't want to pick it all out because boy, was that a pain. So if you have any ideas, please leave a comment. So that's that. And I do have plans for a couple of projects coming up. I'm going to show you the fabric for one. So the project I'm definitely going to do after this one is a play suit, or a jumpsuit with short pants, basically is what it is, a romper with this fabric that I love. It is maybe not that summery, I guess. It's a little dark, but I still love it. This is just a regular old cotton, and that means that my play suit will need lots of ironing, but I think it's going to be really cute. So the pattern I'm using is the Spring jumpsuit. I have already got pattern pieces cut out, but not the fabric, as you can see. I'm gonna get that dress done first, and then that's gonna be my next project. And then I do have quite a few other things still on my list. Sort of nice to be starting a relatively new hobby and just finding lots of patterns and things and fabric and being very inspired to make things. So another fabric that I got for a really cute shirt dress that I want to make for the fall, or I guess for late summer. It's this checked fabric. You get up close, maybe you can see it has some metallic thread in there as well. So the pattern I'm using for this is called, over here on the floor next to me, it's called Matilda. It's by Megan Nielsen Patterns. It's just a really cute short sleeve shirt dress with a collar. That's gonna, and the sample, I guess, was in a checked fabric, and I guess that's what drew my attention. So I definitely want a checked fabric for that. That might be a little bit closer to fall. And I've also got a pair of shorts on my list, and this really cute, rather novelty, pink and white seersucker with little pink flamingos on it. I talked about it episodes ago and was complaining that I didn't order it. I should have ordered it, and eventually I found it again and I did order it. And I want to make some shorts with it, maybe for the beach. And if you caught my most recent vlog in the Reknit Vintage Knitting series, and I will do that here, I have another dress that I want to make, and I've been fabric shopping for that, and found some fabric that is a little bit out of my price range right now, but we'll see. Maybe I'll be able to grab it on sale at some point. So sewing continues. It's sewing weather, and I am all about the sewing. I will conclude with a little bit of chatterbox in this episode because stuff has actually been, well, not that much stuff, but for starters, I got COVID. Had a good over 2 years, made it without it. I don't know where I got it. I am still, masking up when I go to the grocery store or Target. I did eat in a restaurant about the week before. It was the anniversary of my mom's passing, and every year we go to the same restaurant that was her favorite to reminisce about her, so could have been there. It was annoying to get it after being able to escape for so long. So when I tested positive, I isolated for 5 days to keep my family from getting it, which seems to have worked. And then I spent the 5 days after that just kind of wearing a mask in my house. And finally that has passed. It was like a bad cold. Like, had I not known it was COVID, might have spent a day in bed and then just kind of carried on with Dayquil. But as it was, I had to stay in my room for 5 days. So it was headache. I don't really think I ever had a fever. I didn't really check. I can usually kind of just feel like when I have a fever. I didn't really feel like that. I did have some minor aches and a little bit of chills, a cough, and Dayquil and some ibuprofen for a headache seemed to take care of most of it. I had a couple rough nights of sleep, and that was pretty much it. So in my case, it wasn't terrible. I am vaccinated and boosted, so I'm very thankful for that. Thankful that it didn't get to my kids. But I also know that my case isn't necessarily the same as other people's. Other people have much more severe symptoms. So right now it has been, 10, 11, 12, I guess 12 days since the positive test. And the only thing I have left now is just a lot of congestion. Like, I just feel like I have a lot of gunk kind of still in there, especially like when I first wake up in the morning. But otherwise, I seem to be mostly back to normal. Thank goodness. Still, I hope everybody is doing what they can to not get it or not get it again. Especially with the virus evolving rapidly, and it's nice that it's summer now and we can mostly be outdoors for events. But fall will come back, school will come back, and I hope everyone can keep being safe. Keep wearing those masks when possible, when you're in public spaces, and just to do what we can to protect people who maybe are more vulnerable than we are, and for whom it wouldn't just be a bad cold. So I did, because I was stuck in my room, and unfortunately I was not only stuck in my room, but my husband had, he's still working from home. He's never leaving. He is working from home, but he had a meeting that he had to be participating in. So it wasn't like I could just like ring a bell and be like, I need a snack, I need a drink, I was stuck in here, and he brought my meals up at mealtime, and that was about it. But I did get a lot of knitting done, mostly on a project I can't show you, but still. I didn't get any sewing done because I didn't have anything cut out, and I use my dining room table for cutting because that's really the biggest sort of hard flat surface that I have, and I couldn't go downstairs, so I didn't get to do any sewing. I did get to do some knitting, some reading, and I caught up on season 10 of Call the Midwife, which I love Call the Midwife. I know there's an 11th season. It's not readily available in the US. I think if I sign up to PBS, I can like watch an episode a month or something. Like, it's not on Netflix, so I couldn't watch that. But I did catch up on Call the Midwife and watch lots of Bernadette Banner here on YouTube. But by the end of those 5 days, I was definitely ready to at least just get out of my room, get some fresh air. And it was, of course, it wasn't like, 90 degrees and 100% humidity every day where I wanted to be inside. No, it was like a really nice stretch, oddly nice stretch of weather here in Maryland in June, that it was like 75 degrees and sunny and breezy every day. So that happened, and now hopefully I'm done with that, and it is summer, all done at 3 o'clock. The kids are home. My mother-in-law will be coming to visit soon, next month, well, this month now that you're watching this. And then we will be heading to the beach at the end of July. We were staying for 2 weeks this year. Figure with everybody basically working from home, my dad is finally retiring, so he doesn't have to like get back and start preparing for a new school year. It's a long drive. It's like 6 hours with traffic and like 8 hours back because traffic is so much worse. Figure with all that, may as well spend 2 weeks. And then once we get back, we will be having a big 75th birthday party for my dad. He's doing all the things this year. He's finally retiring. He's turning 75. We did have to miss Father's Day because of my COVID. My dad also got COVID. So that's why I'm thinking, my dad, my sister, and I went to this restaurant, and me and my dad both got COVID. The only other place my dad and I were together was we went to a party at my aunt's house that was mostly outdoors, and nobody else there got sick. So at any rate, my dad did get COVID, but he is vaxxed and double boosted, and so he made it through, thankfully, because yes, he's turning 75 this year, and we are going to be having a big birthday party for him. So we have lots to look forward to this summer. Kids got their report cards. I mean, JJ got straight A's for the year. He is in now he's done 3rd grade. Oliver, through some miracle, is being permitted to pass on to the 2nd grade, even though he really did not do well. He did not do the work, is the problem. He can do the work. I know he can. He does it at home, but he just didn't do it. They're going to let him continue on to the 2nd grade. Hopefully both kids riding the bus in the fall, which will give me a little bit more time to myself. My husband, they got the announcement that the office was going to reopen on July 6th. And it was, arrange with your supervisor to see how often you have to go in. So I was like hoping he was going to go in like 3 days a week. He wanted to go in 2 days a week. Then the supervisor came back and said, no, you guys can just keep working from home. It's fine. And then yesterday he got an email from the head of his area saying, I would like each section, and they have 4 or 5, to come in all together 1 day a week. So I'm going to get at least 1 day a week. He thinks he doesn't make any noise. It's just, I don't know, something about having just some space and time to myself. He's like, I'm the freelancer. I'm a freelance translator. I'm supposed to work from home. You're supposed to go to the office. He's like, well, maybe you should get a co-working space. I'm like, you have an office to go to. Go to it. I know he doesn't want to deal with the traffic and the commute and all, which I appreciate, but I do like having some peace and quiet, so we'll see. Maybe when the fall comes, I'll have kids in school and him at work 1 day a week, and maybe, that'll be when I invite Diego Luna over. Thank you so much for joining me for episode 59 of the Hilo Stitch podcast. Show notes with links to everything that I have talked about can be found at mediaperuana.com/Hilo-Stitch. Special thank you to my Patreon patrons who help support the podcast and keep the Media Peruana Net's YouTube channel up and running. If you are interested in providing some support and getting some behind-the-scenes perks and freebies and other goodies, you can find more information at patreon.com/mediaperuana. In case you missed it, I have been recording other non-podcast videos recently, including the top 5 knitting myths that I would like to bust. Check that out here. If you are looking for me on social media, you can find me on Instagram at Ravelry as Media Peruana, and here on YouTube, if you can please like, subscribe, leave a comment, click that bell icon so you get notified about new videos, all of which will help expand the reach of the channel and are greatly appreciated. See you guys next time.